Hi guys, and welcome to the very first video on this channel. I am so happy to be here. I'm happy that you're watching this very first video, and if you like what you see, please consider hitting that subscribe button beneath the video. I will appreciate it, and any comments that you have, jump down to the bottom and I will try to reply as soon as I possibly have the time to do so. So on this channel, we're going to be talking about the FPL. We're going to be talking about the Premier League. It's all about opinions. We're going to be talking about my actual personal team and how that does each and every week, the decisions that I'm making, the thought processes behind that. We'll be talking about the upcoming game week, and then of course we'll be reviewing that and talking about what happened previously with the results. So, starting off with the channel, the very first video, the one that you're watching here, we're going to be talking about the very first draft that I made a couple of weeks ago. And then we're going to follow it up with videos as we progress through the week where we talk about two teams that I'm thinking about that use very different strategies, and I'm deciding about whether to select one of them. And then we're going to end it with the week by talking about the actual team that I have selected. Now, obviously, I haven't come to 100% conclusion on this, so that will come at the end of the week, followed by my actual predictions for the Premier League at large. And then, of course, we will go into the regular cycle of weekly content. So before we go ahead, I just want to talk about a few things about FPL that I think are the things that we need to consider. And when we move forward to my first draft, you'll see that I haven't actually taken into consideration some of these because, it was something I did my initial first draft some weeks ago. So for the first thing is to consider players that have played at the World Cup, particularly the ones that got to the upper levels. We're talking France, we're talking Belgium, we're talking England, okay? Now they played the full amount of games, so there is a general consensus that most of these players will not play, will not feature for the first couple of weeks. And I haven't decided whether I think this is 100% correct. I think probably it's a misconception. I think it's something that people think is going to happen, and I don't think it necessarily will. I think some players are too important. People like Harry Maguire, if he stays at Leicester, do you really think that he will miss out on... Do you think Leicester will leave him out for the first couple of games? I would say it's highly, highly unlikely. So, that's something to consider. But, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon of thinking that, some of these players, they're definitely not going to play on game week 1 and possibly not game week 2. So the second thing is to have a City coverage. I think most people will be predicting that Man City will win the league. They're most likely going to score the most goals. They're most likely going to concede the fewest. So that would indicate that their players are probably going to get, on average, the most amount of points. But they have a huge squad of superstars in most positions. So you need to consider the players that you think are bankers, because there are some that will maybe play, will be in and out the side. So possibly Sane and Sterling, are they going to play every single game? Are they going to be rotated with the likes of David Silva and Bernardo Silva, Jesus, Aguero? There's going to be some sort of rotation. Likewise in centre half, they've got about 5 decent level centre half, so they may rotate. So you may find that if you have 3 players at City, it's possible that all 3 may not play, even though they could be top class players. So you need to consider the ones that are the bankers. Selecting Mohamed Salah, the top man on FPL last year, over 300 points. He was one of those players I did not have at the start of last season, and I regretted it. I wasn't sure whether he was going to continue, a bit like Sterling. I didn't have Sterling last season at the start, and I just thought, Sterling, there's no possible way that he's going to keep up this goal scoring form, and I paid dearly for it. But Salah has 50% selection at the moment. If you don't have him and he goes on a run, you are going to regret it. So it's the decision of Salah, yes or no. The other thing is defenders. Now, in the past, I've never really been a selected big hitters. But particularly last year, I looked at the likes of, Aspi, and I looked at Alonso, who were, regularly getting points week in, week out. And I just thought, I wish I had one of them. I've always gone on the strategy of having low value defenders as cheap as I possibly can. Hoping to get maybe 4 that are going to be playing each week. And just get the scraps and all of my points in the midfield. And it's something I've been considering over the weeks to possibly focus on. And you'll see that from my my initial draft team. That's something that's been on my mind. The other thing is to choose low selection players. What people might call the differential. This is a tricky thing because if you don't have them, they can be the difference. You can, if they are suddenly selected. I can remember a few years ago at Michu, no one had him. I actually had him on week 1, and his value skyrocketed, and he was a differential for me that season. But usually the low selected players are low selected because they're not going to play. They're not going to get the massive amount of points. So it's something to consider. So no, let's talk about my team because we want to talk about my first draft so we can get going, get juicy, look on to the next content. So let's talk about the strategy that I went for in this initial draft. I had 2 big hitters and I wanted to go with a defensive strategy. So what I did was I decided to go for a mid-priced goalkeeper, and I went with Fabianski, 4.5 million. He's playing for West Ham. West Ham are going to finish, probably, somewhere between 8th and 13th. He's going to get a number of clean sheets. He's probably going to have to do a lot of work because he's going to get bonus points, save points. So I went with Fabianski. On the subs bench, I went for Stecklenburg. He's probably not going to play an awful amount of games, but I thought he's a safe pair of hands. And he's not going to be selected. Fabianski's going to play every single game. Then we move into the defence, and I've gone very heavy in defence, in this initial draft. First of all, I went with Aspi. He was the top defender, I believe, last year. He's someone that Chelsea on a whole are a bit of a question. They lost in the Charity Shield. They're probably looking at different formations, so they're going to play slightly different. As Bill Curator, is he going to play centre half? Is he going to play right back? What is he going to do? They're probably not going to play through at the back this season. Last season, he was playing on the side of a 3, and he did have that license to get forward, so he got a number of assists. Okay. The next thing, there's 2 guys, Trippier and Robertson. They're most likely to be the defenders that get the most amount of assists in the game. So I went with both of them. I think they're both going to get a number of the clean sheets and assists. I then went for Walker, so you can see I've gone for a very defensive heavy strategy here with four defenders I would be playing. Walker's going to get a lot of clean sheets, so we're Man City coverage there. And then the last defender I've gone is for Wan-Bissaka. I only played a handful of games, but he's the cheapest defender in the game, and it looks like he's going to play. So there's a bit of a bonus there, but he is fairly heavily selected. I believe, he's got, where are we? 6.6% already. That will probably increase by the time the game has started. So anyway, let's move on to the midfield. We've gone for Salah in this first draft. 13 million. You're going to have to be captain this guy each week. We know what we get from him. And then obviously this is where I've had to save my money in midfield. I've gone for Sessegnon. I think this guy is going to be very, very exciting. Likewise with the other guy I've got here in James Maddison. They've both come up, so they're a bit of an unknown questions. Will they be able to replicate the form they had in the lower divisions? I think both of them are overpriced at 6.5, but I went for them in that initial draft. I probably won't go for them in my final draft. That's the honest situation. I've then gone for 2 cheap players in Alex Pritchard and Helder Costa of Wolves. Pritchard, good young player. Last season, he came in at the second half of the season and he managed to get a goal and assist, and he only played about 10 games. I think he's going to be first choice. I think he's going to be massive for Huddersfield this season. I think he's going to be one of their most important players. Then you've got Helder Costa, who's an exciting player, doesn't have top level experience, but has been a very exciting player. The only thing I have thinking about this, as I say, this was selected a couple of weeks ago. I believe that Wolves are looking to buy another winger. So it's possible that Costa finds himself not in the starting 11. And for 5 million, he was kind of a no-brainer for me when I initially made this selection. And I thought he was going to be a first choice. But if they go for, I think it's Traore from Middlesbrough, it's possible. And they're talking about 20 million. It's unlikely that Wolves are going to spend 20 million on a player that is not going to play. So then we go to the up front. I've gone for Aubameyang. I believe he's going to be one of the most the best strikers in the Premier League this season. I think he's going to score an absolute hatful of goals. You know, an absolute coup for Arsenal last Christmas. You know, it's surprising they got him without Champions League football, all that sort of stuff. I think he's absolutely going to tear the Premier League apart next season. So I went with him, and then I went with Firmino, another guy. You know, he's going to be playing in a team that's probably going to finish in the top 3. You know, so he's going to have plenty of chances. He's going to create goals. He's going to score goals. He's going to get a lot of bonus points. At 9.5 million, I went for him, and then I finished up the team with Bonatini from Wolves. Only 5 million. You know, it's very difficult to find, you know, strikers that are probably going to play for under 5.5 million. Very, very difficult. Now, Bonatini might not even play either. He was the first choice striker for Wolves last season, but they've got another guy on loan now, so it's possible that he could find himself on the bench. So, you know, I might not be getting regular points for him if I need to bring him off the bench. So as I say, this was my very first draft that I did a couple of weeks ago that I just wanted to show you guys before I move forward into teams that I've given a lot more thought into. You can see from this formation, I would have been going for Fabianski, Azpi, Trippier, Robertson, Walker, Salah, Sessegnon, Maddison, and probably Pritchard, with Firmino and Aubameyang up front, with Wan-Bissaka, Costa and Bonatini sitting on the bench. So let me know what you think about this first draft. Was it any good? You know, is it a good strategy what I've gone down? You know, and then we'll bring you up the next videos very shortly where I talk about 2 other different strategies that I'm really considering. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much.